Hi, welcome to Tennis 2020. Real talk, real people, real life. I want to say thank you to Austin Tennis Academy and EKH Media for being the supporters and sponsors of this episode and this show, where we try to be the conduit for all information regarding tennis in this time of COVID-19. And we are in no way, shape, or form trying to be a filter. We're just bringing it to you like we find it and hopefully getting some good information to you. Today, my guest is the person that I live in the trenches with right at the moment, Jack Newman, the CEO and owner of Austin Tennis Academy here in Austin, Texas. And Jack's going to talk to us about what it's like at Austin Tennis Academy these days. Welcome, Jack.
Good morning, Dewey. Great to be here.
Yeah, how are things with you at the moment?
Great. I'm at the Austin Tennis Academy. It's pretty slow, obviously. We're closed, but I'm doing well. I am taking the time that we have been given to do some things that I don't ordinarily get the chance to do, and I'm enjoying that.
So we got the order, and I say we because we're kind of in this together, but we got the order a little bit less than a week ago to essentially stay at home, shelter in place, whatever it happens to be in these various communities. And I think you've been pretty good at looking at it as an opportunity. Can you share with us a little bit about how ATA is handling this opportunity?
Sure. So, yeah, we are following the shelter-in-place order. Prior to that, we had cut back to just doing private lessons with a lot of cleaning protocol, coaches wearing gloves, kids not touching balls, a lot of things that a lot of other tennis places were doing. But once the shelter-in-place order was given, we closed all our operations down. And as far as an opportunity, within a few days, we had spun up a virtual tennis academy. So with your help and Kim's help, we have been able to put our coaches in touch with our parents and our players via Zoom, via email, via FaceTime, using the technology that we have to create a virtual academy. And one of the things that I felt like was extremely important, especially for our academy students, maybe not so much our junior development JD and JA kids, the younger, less experienced kids, but for those kids that are, using tennis to leverage their college choice, I thought it was very important to get back into a rhythm. And one of my friends, Jim Kroll, who does a lot of delivery of fitness through virtual means, had a great conversation with him. And something that stuck with me that he said was about getting into rhythm and being in rhythm and how important that was. And that really resonated with me. And so as quickly as we could, we spun up the virtual academy. We've had a couple of practices already. Our normal day-to-day practice is kids come at 4:30 and they do fitness from 4:30 to 5, and then they have academy from 5 to 7. In virtual academy, they're coming from 4:30 to 5 to do fitness with our fitness guys. Everybody's got a space laid out at their house or outside their house. They got their phone set up so they can hear and see the instructions. I'm on there as well, encouraging or correcting people. And so we've been doing that. We've also started our academy program, which will start 100% full-time this afternoon with a mental training session at 5:30. So we've basically tried to spin up a virtual academy, give our players a sense of rhythm, a sense of the same sort of practice times that they normally would have, and doing the same sorts of things that they would normally do. So our students are used to doing classroom work, so they're just doing a bit more classroom work than they were before. So that's kind of how we've approached this opportunity.
So far, there has been a staying live, right? So a lot of places are spinning up these academies and they are recording lessons for the players to do and doing it where the players are left to do it on their own. You've set up something that's a little bit different in that you're actually live interacting, or the players are live interacting with the coaches on a daily basis. And the coaches are able to see what the players are doing. And so it's also continuing that social bond which in the community, which is a huge part of Austin Tennis Academy. Why was it so important for you to continue to do these things live?
Well, I think that, coaches are tremendous influencers. Um, we a lot of times spend as much or more time with our students than their parents do. And so coaches have a role to play in influencing our students in a positive way. And uh, probably more important when things are challenging than when things are easy. So I think that it was very important that we make these connections with our students on a daily basis. I'm encouraging our coaches to set up individual times with their students, either on FaceTime or through Zoom. I'm encouraging our fitness guys to do the same. Um, we're reaching down into our junior development and junior academy players with a little less live action, but with interaction with the coaches that they had been seeing on a weekly basis as well. So I think that because coaches are influencers and because we can have a positive impact on our students' lives, more important now to have that personal interaction as much as possible, given that we're all stuck at home.
So the coaches haven't or don't have the ability to do as much one-on-one at the moment. And I know that a lot of coaches, various places, are trying to find ways to get out on local courts and teach as long as they can. What is ATA's philosophy, or how are you kind of operating to keep the coaches remaining whole, get them to have a little bit less stress during this time when they're not doing anything that they're used to doing? They're not getting out and getting fresh air. They're not being out and interacting and developing young lives as much in a one-on-one basis. They're not having that tactile feeling that you get of holding a racket and tossing balls and feeling them go back and forth. How have you, as the person, as the leader, tried to make them more comfortable in this situation?
Well, I think a couple ways, Dewey. I think that first of all, financially, we're going to support our coaches. We're committed to our coaches to pay them even if they're not working. We think it's important that they be able to make their house payments, their car payments, their grocery bills, and so ATA will support them. As a business, we don't have unlimited resources, but we have some resources. We have a line of credit which we've gone into to create a cash flow when there isn't business going on at the business. We're in line with all of the SBA and the care loans that are going to be offered by the government. There's a great program where you can get 2.5 times your monthly payroll and expenses for a small business. We're in line for that. We're in line for other low interest long-term notes to help cover our operating costs. So we're probably in maybe a little bit better position than some businesses in that we've been in business 20 years. We have a good clientele. We have a loyal clientele, and we have some cash reserves. So we're, for a number of months, probably going to be fine being able to take care of our coaches. So I hope our coaches feel financially secure. I think anytime there's tremendous uncertainty like there is now, we're all going to feel some anxiety. And so I think that helping our coaches understand that we're going to be there for them and that we're going to support them is important, and we will do the best that we can to do that.
I'm going to shift away from that just a little bit. One of the really neat things that I think you've done is you provided the Rebouncers, and I wish I had loaded some of the video of me putting it together and using it, but I haven't. That you provided some tools for some of the younger players to be able to continue, and some of the older players also, but to continue to actually feel what it's like to hit a ball, get in some kind of a rhythm. Can you tell us a little bit about what that program's all about?
Sure. A couple of weeks ago, when the writing was kind of on the wall that other states had already been putting shelter-in-place orders, and the path of the virus seemed to be growing exponentially, as we've learned. I was talking to my friend Joe and Kalindi Denifer at On Court Off Court about some devices that we could send out to some of our players. So I ordered 30 of these rebounders to be delivered, and they came, I think, early last week, and we handed those out as gifts to some of our families who have multiple kids in our program, or families that have been very supportive of us in the past, or kids that are extremely excited about tennis and didn't have the opportunity, either didn't have a parent or a friend that they could hit with, and we distributed 30 of those. We've got a bunch of foam balls that we're going to be distributing to our junior development and junior academy students as well, once we figure out the best way to distribute them. And we may do another round of the rebounders as well. I'm waiting to see how that has gone over, and if there's desire and need for more, we'll do some more of those as well. But yeah, it's an opportunity for kids to actually hit, and it's not the same as being on a tennis court, but it sure beats playing Wii tennis or sitting watching TV.
How much space do the rebounders take up, and is that the kind of thing that your average family who may have a garage or just a driveway could get in order for their child to keep going?
Yeah, I think it's probably about 4 by 6, 4 feet wide and 6 feet long, and pretty simple to set up as your video shows. And you only need to be 2 or 3 feet away from the rebounder. It doesn't kick the ball back 10 feet. So yeah, space is not a big problem. I think you can set it up in your garage. You could set it up in a back patio. You could set it up on your carport, whatever you have. I mean, they're very easy to set up, and they're don't take up that much space.
So this is something that you did, and you didn't loan them to the players. You gave them to them, that they'll have use of them in perpetuity.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know how long this order, staying in place order is going to be in effect. I don't know the future. I don't have a crystal ball, but my sense was that it would be more than a few days. So giving them something that they can, work with over some period of time when they can't be out here with us, I thought was important for some, especially some of those younger players who are super hungry and super into tennis. So I want them to be able to hit a tennis ball.
You're in somewhat of a different position than a lot of people who run junior academies, in that you own the physical facilities at which you operate. So that leaves you with, even greater overhead. And you would think that that would be pressure to say, we're going to operate even when others aren't. But you didn't make that decision. What was the reasoning behind you saying, we're going to close, even though tennis is something where you have two people on a space that's 78 feet long or 120 feet from fence to fence, and 27 feet wide or 36 feet wide if we're playing doubles, so 4 people. So it's pretty good ability to stay apart from each other. But you made the decision that when the stay-at-home order came, that you were totally closing the doors. What were some of the reasons behind that?
Well, I think a couple of reasons. One, I'm very concerned about the health and safety of our staff. I'm very concerned about the health and safety of our students and their families. So the number one reason is health and safety. I mean, we need to do those things that help flatten the curve, those things that help stop the spread of virus for as long as we can. That helps our healthcare people who are on the front lines fighting the virus. It certainly was not an easy decision, and certainly one that I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about. But, we talk a lot about developing citizens of significance at ATA. And so we got to be good citizens, and following the order is being a good citizen, in my opinion. So that's why we made that decision.
So if we were to look at what it may be like as we start opening back up again. So there's going to be some period of time when people are starting to come back. The likelihood is it's not going to be everybody at the same time, right? Some people are going to be a little bit more timid, more hesitant to come back out. And there are probably going to be those who are, I hate to use the word early adopters, but they're going to say, yeah, enough is enough, and we're going to be out and about. What do you anticipate that may look like as a reopening of the tennis world. And I know there are many parts of it. There's tournament play and there's practice and there's one-on-one versus group. And have you thought at all about what that reopening of the tennis world might look like?
I've spent a few minutes thinking about that, Dewey, and I think that just like everybody else, there's going to be some staggered way to approach going back to work, whether it's us or anybody else, and trying to maintain the same rules and regulations. I heard a great video from a New York emergency room doctor. Basically said, if you follow the rules, you cannot get this virus, right? You keep your social distance, you wash your hands consistently, and you don't touch your face. And so I think that one of the things that he said, which resonated with me, is that we're not very good at not touching our faces. I've watched myself on the screen today, and I've touched my face 5 or 6 times just in this conversation. And so what he suggested was that when things start to come back, that any sort of mask, whether it's a bandana or a homemade mask or not one of the masks that the health workers need, but something like that, that we should be wearing masks more as a reminder not to touch your face than that the virus needs, the mask's going to protect you from the virus. I thought that really made a lot of sense. And I think that it might be one of the things that I would adopt coming back, is to wear a mask and have other people wear masks. Not so much because that's the way to stop the virus, but it is a reminder to not touch your face, which is the number one way that the virus gets passed, right? So I think that that would be...
You got a response of from both myself and my production team when you brought that point forward. That's one that I don't think many people have thought about.
Yeah, this emergency room doctor was, he's been dealing with COVID-19 intensely in these emergency wards, and he goes in with people who have the virus. He's intubating people. He made a great point. He said it's very empowering to know that the virus is a wimp. This virus is a wimp, he said, which is another thing that resonated with me, that, if you wash your hands, you basically destroy the virus. If you don't touch things that have been touched by other people, you can't get the virus. If you don't touch your face, it's hard to get the virus. So if you know the rules and you follow the rules, hard to get the virus, right? 99.99% you will not get the virus if you follow the rules. And that really resonated with me. I'm a rule follower, so it really resonated with me that this guy who's in the trenches of dealing with COVID-19 every day basically said, here's the rules, lay them out. If you follow these rules, it's hard to get the virus. So I think that would be one step coming back. I think from our perspective, probably, opening for private lessons first, and then trying to integrate our group program back in a kind of staggered way with smaller groups, with not so many people together and so close together. When we meet for practice, we meet down between courts 9 and 10, and there's 50 or 60 kids within a very, very small space. And so that's something probably we won't be doing for a while. It'll probably be spread out more. So I see that. And then I think down the line, as we get more antivirals or a vaccine for COVID-19, we'll be doing more and more of everything. We'll just be doing it in a slightly different manner, I think, more safe, more health conscious and safety conscious way.
I've been fortunate over, this 30-year career that I've run into a lot of tennis coaches, and I could probably name a dozen that I would call in the top 10 in terms of caring for people, caring for their players, caring for their staff, and you fall within the top half of that dozen people. I've not run across anyone as selfless who is looking out for their clients, what you're doing with closing, making sure that they're not bringing it home to an elderly person, for your staff, making sure that they're remaining as whole as can possibly be financially during this time. I think that you can't do that strictly from a business standpoint. There must be some emotional connection that you have with all of these people that is driving your decisions. What does that feel like on a daily basis as you start thinking about these things and how consequence of, well, I have to close, but that might make where coaches aren't making quite as much, and where is that roller coaster and seesaw take you?
Well, I think to understand that, you have to understand the founding of ATA. We're a double bottom line business.
What
So
does
we
that
want to
mean?
make money. Yeah, we want to make money, but we also want to do good in our community. So, we made a commitment to raise $1 million for a Glimmer of Hope, a local charity. We've raised over 650,000 of that $1 million pledge. Our opening of this business, we were committed to being a double bottom line. So we had two bottom lines. One bottom line is to make money, right? We want to be profitable. We want to be able to pay our coaches well. We want to be able to have a nice facility for players to be at. But we also want to impact our community in a positive way. And being committed to a Glimmer of Hope, our local charity, is one of the ways that we do that. I mean, I think these decisions fall in line with that philosophy, which is where we started. It's not anything new. It's not something probably not unique either. There are lots of other double bottom line businesses out there who are trying to be good citizens in their community. So I think that's where it all comes from, Dewey.
It's hard. I'm right there with you, but I see this as an opportunity. So as we do some of these virtual things, I suspect there's going to be some that stick. And while there are many who are jumping in and trying to find ways to virtually communicate with people, and I think surprised Zoom hasn't broken at this point in time with all of the new people that are jumping on and doing Zoom calls. How do you see this being part of the long-term strategy of Austin Tennis Academy, or have you even had a chance to slow down enough to think about it?
Well, I'll tell you my thoughts about that, dude. I think number one, it's a fantastic opportunity for all of our coaches to grow, right? Some of us are not of the age where this technology, we're not Snapchatters, let's put it that way, right?
Right.
And so Zoom and these other technologies that we're learning how to use are incredible tools to help us impact our students in a different way, and in a way that maybe resonates with them more powerfully. So I think number one, it's an opportunity for us to learn new skills. We're always talking to our students about learning new skills. It behooves us to learn new skills, makes us better coaches, also makes us remember what it is like to be a beginner at something, right? And how hard that is and how challenging and how much practice you need to have to be good at something. So I think that opportunity for our coaching staff to grow and to learn and to get into these new modalities is incredibly important. Our school, ATA College Prep, because our students travel and because we have kids who are committed to tennis at a high level, we've already been delivering school virtually for some of our students when they travel. So the jump that ATA College Prep is making to the virtual world probably isn't as challenging as it would be for us coaches who are used to personal delivery of this information. So I think that it offers our coaches a great opportunity. The other thing that I've had a lot of thoughts about lately is, a lot of our students are well off. They have a great house. They have more food than they can eat. They have two parents who are taking care of them. They get to participate in a sport that's super challenging and super exciting. So everything's given to them pretty much, right? And so now they're having to learn and they're having to do things that is harder, right? It's harder to do virtually than it is to do in person. So that challenge and that difficulty, I hope, is creating a little bit more grit, right? We need a little bit more grit to be better athletes. So I think there's opportunity there that might be kind of hidden under the covers, right? That our students are actually becoming grittier because they're having to manage things in a way that's different and less easy than it was before. So I think that's a positive as well.
I thank you so much for taking the time to share with us. Any last thoughts, any suggestions for another tennis program that might be out there and at its wit's end for what they can do, if you come up with any good sources that you're looking at?
Well, I think the main idea I think I would like to leave people with is this. I think we're on like a 3 month reset. So our loans for ATA, the land and the facilities and all that, our bank has reset us 3 months. We've pushed payments back 3 months. We've added 3 months onto our notes. I think that people can do that with their house payments, their car payments, that talk to the people that you're working with on your expenses, if that's the biggest worry. If you can push your expenses 3 months into the future, I think life will look a lot differently. Same thing with the government programs that are coming out, right? They're talking about 2.5 months worth of payroll and operating expenses. They're talking about long-term 10-year notes. They're talking about forgiving debt if you retain your employees. So I think that thinking about this as a 3 month reset, that's one thing. Is there's a limit to this. It's not going to be an unlimited amount of time that we're going to be doing this. So there's a limit. Probably 3 months is a good way to think about it. Think about it that way. The second thing is, we run our lives so quickly and so jam-packed that there's hardly ever time, at least from my perspective, and I'm just speaking for me personally, not for all of ATA, but to have the time to slow down, to do a few things that you like to do, to have an opportunity to reflect a little bit. This is a blessing. Take advantage of it.
It certainly is, and I want to thank you for being someone who in our world has made this possible. You know, I try to start these broadcasts with, it's a service of Austin Tennis Academy, and that's because we're operating this out of a space that was, you know, originally designed to be the Austin Tennis Academy podcast studio. And we're in a place where through social distancing, we can't bring people into the studio, but the technology allows us to connect with people all over the world and to bring their ideas and their solutions out to the rest of the world who maybe aren't as fortunate to be able to have these kind of tools at their disposal. So I personally want to say thank you, Jack, for making this available to us and through us to all of the people who are out there. And then to say thank you to you personally, just for being someone who cares and being the kind of person in the tennis world that I'm proud to be associated with. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dewey. Happy to be of service.
That's it for today for Tennis 2020. We are the conduit for information. We are not the filter. We got to talk today to someone who is a leader. You could tell just by listening to him that he has thought through these things and that he's brought solutions to the table which are impacting both his clients and his staff. You know, you hear about people paying their people for the rest of the month. You know, he has a multi-month something in place. Austin Tennis Academy is great. We're going to be back tomorrow. Tomorrow we are talking with Dan Kelly, who is the head fitness instructor at Soto Tennis Academy, and with Dan Kiernan, the owner, who was on, I believe it was last week. It's all kind of running together. On Wednesday, we'll be back, not with a real talk, but with our weekly discussion with Lisa Stone, and where we're just kind of talking about what our takeaways are on the tennis world. And I believe Thursday is scheduled to be a gentleman who currently lives in Florida, Eric Dobsha. If you've been around tennis for a while, you may remember Eric when he was in juniors. That Eric's a big guy, 6'6", but he was doubles partners with another guy, Brian Dunn, who was just that much bigger. They were monsters. So he will be on Thursday. That's it. Tennis 2020 this week. Look to see you soon.